And zoom a little bit. Alright, so today's lunch tutorials were on the periodic table, groups and periods. So one second, let me grab one of my periodic tables. Alright. So periodic table, a chart that organizes elements based on similar properties. Groups, the main important part is that groups go up and down. Alright, and they can also be called families. Okay. Periods, horizontal, and we know that they go left to right. And you end a sentence with a period, so they go left to right. Metals, they're located on the left. Metalloids, the staircase, so there's something like a metal, something like a non-metal, and non-metals are on the right. So we've spent about a week or two learning about the periodic table, and here is the one, of course, that you would get on STAR, just in case my Zoom is kind of zoomed in too much, but that's okay. Alright, and I already did a video explaining the periodic table general. Alright, so now what we're going to focus on are just the groups and the periods. I'm going to flip over for a second. Alright, so groups go up and down, and we only focus on the 8 here. We don't focus on this white area, the transition metals. So group 1, group 2, group 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And just like we have 7 class periods a day, we have 7 periods. Okay. So the groups are elements that have similar chemical properties. They behave the same under the same conditions. So that's why we call them families, because they are generally closely related. Alright, so here. Alright, so valence electrons in each group. Each group tells us the number of valence electrons, and if you forgot what a valence electron is, it is the electrons that are outside on the outermost shell. So I'll show you an example of that from last week. So this is an assignment that you did last week that has valence electrons on it. Alright, so right here, this particular element has 1, 2, 3 valence electrons. It has 13 total electrons. The group number is going to tell you how many are on that outermost shell. Okay. So group 1 is going to have 1 valence electron. Group 2 has 2. Group 3 has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And here is our one exception right here. And we all know that this element is helium. Helium only has 2 electrons total, and those 2 fill the first shell. So our electrons fill 288, and we know that helium only has 2 electrons. So if I was to draw an atom of helium, here's my first shell, and here it's 2 electrons filling that first shell. So helium is in group 8 because it behaves just like a noble gas. These are not reactive. And then here are 1 and 7, we don't include 6, but 1 and 7 are very reactive. So here are my notes to the side. 1 and 7, very reactive. And then 8 is going to be inert or non-reactive. They have a full energy level, a full shell. Alright. So now we're going to look at some star questions, and I'm going to show you kind of my think aloud process so that I can make sure that you can answer this type of question. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and this is one that we did in tutorials today for lunch. Element R and element Q have the same number of valence electrons. That is important. These elements both have similar chemical behavior, but element R has fewer energy levels than element Q. Well, before I start, let's just see everything that I can identify about this element without using my periodic table. So this element I can see has 12 protons, which tells me that the atomic number, and we learned that the first week of school, is 12. It has 2 valence electrons, so it is in group 2. It is utilizing 1, 2, 3 rings. The period number, I forgot to mention that, tells us how many shells or how many rings. We've learned that already. So it has 3 shells. So I'm going to put period 3. And just for fun, let me zoom out a bit and let's look at the periodic table. So this is atomic number 12, and we said group 2 and period 3. Here's our periodic table. Here is atomic number 12, which is magnesium. It is in group 2, and it has 2 valence electrons, and it is in period 3, and we noticed that it did use 3 shells. So just verifying on the periodic table, here is group 2, and here is period 3. All right. So about element Q, it has 20 protons, so that atomic number is going to be 20. It has 2 valence electrons, so it is in group 2. That means that these elements are going to behave very similar. And then period is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Which statement best describes the positions of the 2 elements in the periodic table? So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we can see. Okay. Which statement best describes the positions of the 2 elements? The 2 elements are in the same period. Period 3 and period 4 are not the same. The 2 elements are side by side in the same period. Well, no. The 2 elements are in the same group with R just above Q. The 2 elements are in the same group with Q at the top of the group and R at the bottom. So let me get my periodic table. We know that 12 is less than 20. Here is group 2. Element R is this one, 12, and element Q is 20. Okay? So element R is just above element Q, magnesium and calcium. So our correct answer is going to be H. So what I'm getting at here is that not only do you have to know what valence electrons are, you have to know what they tell us. And valence electrons tells us the group number. So if you didn't know that groups were up and down, you would not know if they were in the same group. You have to know that periods go left to right, so that when you're looking on the periodic table, you know how to find the elements and identify the group and the period, even if you just had the atomic number. Okay. Next question that we did today in tutorials. And these questions are all online, and I've already showed you guys how to access that. Students in a science class prepared flashcards so that they could quiz one another about the arrangement of the periodic table. One of the flashcards contained information about 2 elements, element L and element M. Atoms of element M have 2 more valence electrons than that of element L. So element M, just making a note here, is small, 2 more valence electrons. Atoms of element L are more reactive. So element L is more reactive. Both elements are metals, so that means that they both have to be on the left side, because the left side of the periodic table is metals. Now, let's see what I can quickly identify. They have 2 more, the element M has 2 more valence electrons. Valence electrons tells me the group number, which are these. Okay, right here at the top. if element M has 2 more valence electrons, it is impossible for them to be in the same group, because this would mean that they both have 2 valence electrons, and we know that that's not true. If element L had 2, then element M would have to have 4, because it has 2 more valence electrons. So I can also eliminate this one, because M and L, this would be 1 valence electron and 2 valence electrons. And it has 2 more valence electrons, not 1. And I can quickly eliminate this one, because this is where the metalloids are, the staircase. And then this is a nonmetal. So the only possible answer choice is F. You have to know where the elements are located, if it's a metal, a nonmetal, and a metalloid, and what do valence electrons tell us, because that's our hint right here, so that you can know what group they're in. Next, the periodic table is organized into groups and periods of elements. The characteristics of a certain group of elements are listed below. It is shiny, it is solid at room temperature, and it has 2 valence electrons. Well, what do those hints tell me? These 2 tell me that it's a metal, and this one tells me that it is in group 2. Now I'm going to go to my periodic table. I'm going to zoom out some. I'm only looking in group 2, right here, up and down. And let's take a look. So my possible answer choices. My first one is lithium. I go down, group 2. No lithium. Lithium is in period 2. So you have to be sure that you know that groups go up and down. So I'm going to X out lithium. My next one is strontium. Here is strontium, right here in group 2. And let's just check the others to make sure. Aluminum is in group 3. And then silicon is in group 4. So the correct answer is strontium. Which 2 elements on the periodic table are in the same period? That again is left to right. All right, let's take a look. We have Sn and Rb. So let's look. Let's find Sn and Rb. Okay, here they are, 50 and 51, and they are both in period 5. Okay? Now here is the distractor. Answer choice D, Se and Te. Here they are right here. They're in the same group. You have to make sure you know that period is left to right. So that one is easy. Our correct answer is A. All right, next one, let me zoom in some. All right. A student is studying the ways different elements are similar to one another. Diagrams of atoms from 4 different elements are shown below. Which 2 atoms are of elements in the same group? Group number is valence electrons. So all I'm going to do is go through and count them. Atom 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one is in group 6. 1, 2, 3. This one is in group 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Group 6. And this one is 8. 1 second. All right. So which 2 elements have the same number of valence electrons are of course in the same group. So this is going to be atom 1 and 4, G. All right. So now we're going to go to the next question. 1 second.